Hi there, and welcome to today's episode of TokStocks Deal Flow. And today we're going to be talking about rare earths, also known as rare earth metals or rare earth elements or REEs. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm your host, Keir Reynolds. I've got about 20 years of investment experience in small cap Canadian listed stocks. And why don't we get into today's episode? First off, the fine print. Our little disclaimer, this is not investment advice. This is for information purposes only. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Monumental Minerals, which we're going to be talking about today, did not consult or review any of the information. I have probably made errors in this presentation, so please do your own due diligence. Thank you. Now let's get right in. So why am I talking about rare earths now? Well, timing. I think there's a unique opportunity here with Monumental, deals coming together. As we always do, we invest into the people. And this new critical and electric metals explorer is backed by a successful mining investment family that has a Rolodex that most of us would kill for. Pride, the young co-founder, has learned a lot. His last mining deal, he was quite successful with. And it actually ended with an acquisition here just recently. And so for this one, I think he wants to do it bigger and better. And I think he's got a little bit of pride on the line. And it looks like he's really starting to bring things together. Structure. The company's got a very low float, less than 25 million shares outstanding, low market cap. It's about a $10, $12 million market cap company. And lastly, geopolitical risks. With what's going on with Ukraine, what's going on with Russia, what's going on with China, rare earth elements, for those of you who don't know, they're really important. They're critical for our electronics, for our cell phones, for our technology, critical for computers, critical for batteries, critical for infrastructure. They're used all over the place. And right now, 70 to 80, 85% of all rare earth metals which are mined are from China. So massive geopolitical risk. I think there's going to be definitely a lot of momentum looking to identify deposits in friendly countries. And that's exactly what Monumental Minerals is doing. So a little bit about it. They're a mining exploration company focused on the acquisition, exploration, and development of mineral resource properties in the critical and electric metals sector. They currently have two projects. Two drill-ready projects, which is what we like to hear, and one of the catalysts behind why we're looking at this now. They've got one which is just in northern Mexico, just south of the Texas border. It's a heavy rare earth element project known as the JEMI. They've flown their airborne. They're actually going to be doing a reconnaissance trip here next month in April, just coming up in a couple of weeks, where they're going to select drill targets, and then they're going to get drilling. And then they've also just recently announced an LOI to acquire a 75% interest in another drill-ready property. It's a mostly lithium property, which would be more related to your electric metals. Still considered a critical or strategic metal, and it's within the prolific lithium triangle, where most of the lithium that's used for batteries and electric cars and technology and things like that. It's where most of it's mined, and the lithium triangle is in the central Andes high desert, which includes Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia. So they've got a project. It's an earlier stage project, but it looks like from sampling, it's got some interesting grades, and it's drill ready, and it's right in the mecca of where you find majority of the mineable lithium. Told you before, there's only 23.3 million shares outstanding right now. It's got about 20% insider ownership. There's some other close associates of the young founder, including the past CEO, who's also a founder. So there's probably a little bit more than that in close and friendly hands that's subject to TSX venture escrows for pre-IPO stock. So the predecessor deal, I talked a little bit about the co-founder. His name is Max Sally, and his predecessor company was one called New Placer Dome. And before that, it was under a different name called Berrien Mining. And let me tell you, he worked his tail off on this company. If you just want to look at the chart there, he ended up acquiring a project off of Liberty Gold, or announcing an earn-in or an acquisition that was going to be staged over time of a gold deposit in Nevada. They ended up having to do a significant financing. They did over a $12 million financing, and it was right during a bit of a tenuous time. 2020, we were fairly new into COVID. Ended up doing about a $12.5 million financing, 22 cents with a full 3-year warrant at 30. So pretty juicy piece of paper. He closed the private placement. And if you look at the volume, you're going to notice this thing traded quite a lot of volume for the last half of 2020. And it traded a lot of volume fairly quickly after the private placement closed. And actually, the stock went from 35 cents up to almost $1, up to around 95 cents. But this was during the 4-month hold period when all of those new investors who were owning those 56 million shares and 56 million full warrants, when they were really under a hold period. So the stock had a much lower float at the time. And obviously the stock moved up, went parabolic, as they say, lots of attention on it. It was the talk of like the town, talk of the industry. And then when the financing came free trading, with that's a lot of paper to come free, and a lot of what we call riding the warrant. Sell your share, ride the warrant, see if anything happens over the next 3 years. If something great happens, you get to exercise it. Well, after that, it became a little bit of a harder path for the company because it had really greatly increased its float. They put out a couple of series of drawer results. And I guess for whatever reason, the market didn't think the drawer results were all that great. And, what they say, buy on rumor, sell on news. So the stock each time had a bit of a run up before the drawer results. And then it sort of got sold off. And then you can see a long tail there into 2021, where it was still trading some pretty decent volume on any given day. But its price had certainly been fairly depressed. And the company's actually just been acquired through a merger. They've got a definitive deal. It's just closing. And so that was the predecessor deal. It made a lot of money for a lot of people who were in early and were able to take advantage of that price appreciation and all of that volume that it traded. And then I had a bit of a harder time when its new project that it acquired, that came with a 43101 resource that they were looking to upgrade. When the drill stick, encountered some pretty good mineralization, but maybe not what investors are really looking for, it definitely became a little harder going. So that's why I think on this company, Monumental, I think the young founder, who's really grown into a pretty accomplished executive, he's somebody I like to call a friend. I think he's got a little something to prove on this one, and wants to put toolkit that he learned. He's been a long time investor in the small cap space since 2009, really active, has a great Rolodex, has access. His family's very successful in the space. I think he's going to take all of these, all the learning and the success that he had on this company, and I think he's going to roll it in. And I think we're seeing the beginning of that just sort of play out. Anyways, let's get into Monumental. So I'm adding it here. I'm at to my watch list at 47 cents. I think there's probably going to be what we call a private placement to be announced, because they've got 2 drill-ready properties. They've done some work, and their original IPO was just $1 million, and they did some pre-IPO money as well, but they don't have a very big bank account to be able to actually go out and fund drilling. So I would say that because they've just recently announced a second project, which is also drill ready, they're going to be selecting drill targets. In the next couple of weeks, if not sooner, we're probably going to see a private placement announced. And I expect it will be well subscribed. Around now is when you want to be starting to look at picking away at this thing, unless you want to participate in the private placement. The volume is starting to perk up. If you look at the chart there, you'll see that volume is starting to come in to the story. As I said, the co-founder's got something to prove on this one. What he learned from the last deal, put it all together, and deliver a home run and build a big company, one that might be monumental, you might say. And usually the promote will begin while the drills are turning. So again, could be optimal timing here before that work begins. Probably a great time to start building a bit of a position. So if we want to follow the people, which is what we always do, we're not just investing into its properties. We're really investing into who the management team is, who the founding group is, who the existing shareholder base is. If we look at Max, who's the co-founder and a director of the company, he helped, put this company together from with another close friend of his. Well, if we look at him, his father, Barry Sally, was a prolific Vancouver investor, developer, and also a co-founder of Q-Trade Securities. His uncle, Rob Sally, was a top broker with Dundee Securities and really trusted as a broker by a lot of the biggest names in the mining business. More recently, he's enjoying sort of a semi-retirement, you might say. Since 2009, Max, he's managed his family capital and also overseen an active small cap equity portfolio. He's been building out his own Rolodex, learning the ropes, and that's actually how I got to meet him. Was through that. I think we met in 2011. He has past success in the lithium or critical battery metal space. He was corporate development with Advantage Lithium, which was recently acquired just in 2020 during a harder time in the market. It was acquired for $66 million of value. So Max worked for quite a while for that company and really understands the ropes. Got to learn who the key players in the lithium industry are, and not surprised to see that he's secured an earn-in here on a drill-ready lithium project. Right in the key lithium sort of triangle. So again, New Placer Dome taught him a lot. It got to help build on a solid reputation for him, showing that he's not just an investor, but knows how to be an executive. And he also had a very loyal and active shareholder base. That stock traded with quite a bit of volume. And I'd say he's one of the hardest working people in the business. I've watched him make some moves in his career, and work is seldom not on his mind. I don't know if he can turn off on it. We don't see each other as much anymore, but he's definitely a close friend, and it's really been great to watch him sort of grow into being the executive side of things. So how do we play this? How do we play Monumental? Well, it's already public. It's trading on the TSXV exchange. They just announced an earn-in on a second drill-ready project in the prolific lithium triangle. It's a project based in Chile. I think a private placement is likely coming fairly soon. So now is probably the time to start picking away in the market. Volume and price appreciation has sort of started to pick up, which means that there's probably some activity there behind the scenes with people starting to get a bit excited about its next phase. They've made a bit of news indicating that they're going to be doing a reconnaissance trip down to Mexico as well as Chile to select drill targets for both projects. And with it having two drill-ready projects, we got a good shot at having some drilling success with at least one of them. It's got a very tight share structure currently. So with a renewed interest, some new attention on this thing, the price can change quickly with increased volume. So who else likes these guys? Who else is helping? Who else is interested in Monumental success? One of the sort of key people is a gentleman by the name of Cal Everett. He's a technical advisor to the company. He's a very well-known former geologist who turned banker and institutional sales guy with both BMO and PI, and then he ran his own exempt market dealer known as Axman. He's a deal maker. He's a very well-known mining investor, and he's also a very accomplished executive. He's been running Liberty Gold as its CEO. And Liberty did quite well doing a deal with New Placer, and that's how Max and Cal really got to sort of know each other. Someone who might be well known for any of you FinTwit sort of investors is Johnny Lambo. At Johnny Lambo, he was one of the early people that identified EMO Emiratus, which has been a massive success, multi bagger. And Johnny's been recently mentioning Monumental. So for him to show some interest, he's got the pick of the litter. He doesn't have to, he's got a great reputation there. So for him to highlight it means that he likes something about this. And then lastly, Toronto's Claris Securities was the agent for their original IPO. It was a fairly small IPO, just over $1 million, 20 cents. Typically, that firm is going to be doing much larger financings. So for them to get involved in something that's not an institutional offering, who knows? Does that mean that there might be some bigger things in store for Monumental that bodes well for the company sort of moving forward? Anyway, that's sort of a little bit on Monumental. Wanted to get it on your radar screen. I've added it into our virtual portfolio over on Yahoo. If you check below in the YouTube comments, there'll be a link. You can go and track our moves. Thank you for your time. And until next time.